Look what we got today. We have a Porsche 911 GT3 on the channel. It belongs to my friend who's choosing not to be filmed. He just doesn't want to be on camera, so I'm going to be reviewing it and we'll go for a ride later. So this is a 2022 911 GT3, the 992 chassis. It's black on black. We'll get to the inside in a moment. The modifications to this car right now are just PPF. These cars apparently come on some kind of a coilover setup. So the owner told me he's going to be dropping the height a little bit. He's going to leave the stock wheels. And then the biggest thing that he's going to be doing is exhaust. So the spec, some of you may know with the Porsches, pretty much every spec option you have on these cars is done individually. So anything you spec on the car is an extra upcharge. So he has the carbon roof. He has the yellow seat belts with the carbon bucket seats. I'll show you guys that in a moment. And then the upgraded matrix headlights. So it's on the base wheels, but I think it's very nice, or I think they look really good. And I forgot to mention also he has the upgraded carbon ceramic brakes, and the wheels come standard with the center lock. I think these cars look pretty amazing stock. There's not much you have to do to them. I think these stock wheels look great. When he does the drop, it's gonna make that fitment a little better. And with the exhaust, he mentioned that he's gonna do, I think, a 2B exhaust, which is a very well-known exhaust brand in the Porsche world. He's gonna do the full exhaust, so the headers and everything. So once he gets that done, it'd be cool to get another video and get some comparison exhaust clips. So let's take a look at the inside here. So the spec, of course, black on black, has the charcoal wheels actually, or gunmetal rather, so it's not a full black on black spec. The inside has the carbon bucket seats with yellow seat belts, yellow stitching, and unlike the M3, M4 carbon bucket seats, these are like a fixed seat, so you can't actually recline them. This is just one solid piece. And he has the PDK option. I believe these come in manual as well. But of course you can't be faster than a PDK. The back seats, or lack thereof, you don't get the back seats in the GT3s, but you get all this space, which I think is beneficial. You know, if you're taking the car to get groceries or whatever, you just need extra storage. There's just a ton of space back here, honestly. I'm kind of surprised. And of course you get the GT3 in the headrest. Alcantara steering wheel with yellow stitching as well. Got the carbon trim on the inside, and then the Alcantara armrest over here. I really like the new design of the interiors of the 992 Porsches. It's kind of like a good mixture of modern while still kind of keeping everything integrated in the dash, whereas like the M3, M4, you get that big screen, that big widescreen slapped on display, and this one keeps the analog tachometer in the middle. So you kind of get a good mixture of modern and classic at the same time. Get the cool drive mode thing, and we'll go for a drive as well, so don't leave just yet. I'm normally not a huge fan of black on black cars, but this paint is really nice. You can kind of see the metallic peeking in with the sun hitting it here. Really nice black paint, and then the yellow contrast on the interior just kind of gives it like that Batman spec. If it was all black, I wouldn't be the biggest fan of it, but I think with the yellow and black contrast, it just looks really fucking sick. And then I like the detail here of the carbon on the seat. I think some people use these slots here. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not too familiar with these models, but they put the seat belts through here, so you have like a multi-harness race seat belt. The shifters on these are pretty cool. It actually kind of looks like a manual shift knob, but of course it's an automatic, PDK rather, so you have that dual clutch, Porsche's version of the dual clutch. Got the Bose sound system, and then the GT3 carbon door sills over here. Here we have the sun hitting the rear fender. You really get that nice view of the metallic flake in the paint. So this, of course, is the GT3, not GT3 RS. The RS has that big wing, a similar style with the swan neck connection here, but the GT3 RS has that DRS function where the spoiler opens and you get that airflow through. But I really like this one because it's not too tall, but you still get that swan neck connection there on top, so it looks super aggressive. compared to the old GT3. Not saying the old GT3 had anything wrong with it, but they really stepped their game up on this chassis here. If you could only choose one car to drive daily, are you picking the M3 or are you going with the Porsche GT3? I would sacrifice the comfort personally and keep the GT3 just because it's such a sick car. Obviously the price comparison between both, you can't really compare. This is like triple the price, but I would sacrifice the comfort and daily one of these if I had the means to. And I think the stock height honestly isn't too bad. Like I said, the owner told me that these GT3 models, the 992, come on coilovers from the factory, so it's as simple as just adjusting the height down to getting that ride fitment that you want. The rear has maybe a 2-finger gap, if that, but the tires are pretty meaty. They're 315, 30, 21, so they really fill up that wheel well nicely. And then the fronts also have a similar gap with that 2-finger gap, 255, 35, 20. So you get that staggered setup, similar to how on the M3 we have from the factory 20 in the back and then 19 up front. You have 20 in the front on the GT3 with 21s in the rear over here. I'm a big fan of the clear taillight look rather than the red. I think it really complements the black specifically on this spec here. I think it looks really nice. And then we have the carbon roof, similar to the carbon roof, how it comes on the G80. Don't mind the bird poop or whatever that is. The owner said he's not going to do any additional carbon. He's not going to really do any other appearance mods besides lowering it. I think the front doesn't really need a front lip. It looks pretty good. And then once he drops the front, or rather once he drops the car down a little bit, it's going to close up that gap in the front and make it look more aggressive. Got the carbon mirror caps, carbon roof, and besides that, on the exterior, there's not really any other visible carbon. I'm not sure if any of the body panels have carbon that are painted. Let me actually pop the hood and see what we have under there. So let's go check. This is the key, by the way. Similar to all the other Porsche keys. I know if you get a paint to sample, I think they give you a key that's paint matched in the color that you got the car in. Not used to how this opens. Oh, there we go. So in the front here, we have the frunk, which is pretty good size, honestly. You can fit a good size carry-on, or if you're going grocery shopping, whatever, you could put your stuff in there. And I was saying that the car doesn't have any other carbon on it, but now that I popped the hood here, you can see underneath, this whole hood is actually carbon. You could see the exposed carbon from the underside. It's not glossed over or anything, so it's a matte carbon. And you have the vents here. It feels super light opening it. It's like a feather. Okay, get you an angle with the hood popped. Now, I don't believe that anything's visible in regards to the engine, but I'm gonna open up the, what would you call it, the trunk in this case. I've never had a rear engine car, so I don't know what we actually call, I don't know what they call the back thing. I don't even know how this opens. Oh, so I pressed the button. I was expecting something to open back here, and all that opened is this little slot for, that open back here is, I guess, the coolant, I think that is, and then the oil cap. So you don't actually see any of the engine when you open the back. So made a mistake there. You can't see anything. All right, so I'm very excited because this is my first time not only ever being in a GT3, but also driving it. So I want to thank my friend. I'm not gonna mention his name or anything because he wants to stay anonymous, but this is a very cool experience you guys are seeing for the first time as well. So Keyless start. With the Porsches, of course, the ignition's on the left. I think back in the racing days, they moved it to the other side for... Okay. So we're letting the car warm up a little bit. Don't want to go drive it hard or anything on a cool engine. So the infotainment. So it has CarPlay. It has Sport Chrono. I don't really know how it works, but I think it connects to this setup over here. Actually feels more like a manual than the standard DCTs that I've driven. Like you actually have to give it more gas for the clutches to engage. I think the seats actually feel more comfortable than the M3, M4 carbon bucket seats. I feel like I have more room on my shoulders, so it's like a better fit. So if you're a bigger person, I think the GT3 carbon bucket seats would fit you a little bit better as compared to the M3, M4 carbon bucket seats. You can really feel the shifts actually. Just driving normally now, I feel more of the, I guess the snappiness of the shifts, even in automatic, just leaving the neighborhood here and driving casually. It might be because the engine's cold or the transmission's cold as well, and it's still warming up. So it's interesting how they kept the tachometer analog and then everything else is digital on the dash. It kind of gives you the mixture of like the old school, the modern at the same time. And then to put it in, like if you want to shift the paddles, you slap it over to the left. Okay. So I think so now I'm in manual and I could use the paddles to shift, but I can't obviously go too quick because the car is still warming up. It says that the oil temperature is at 144. What do you normally let it get to? It's warming up pretty quickly, actually. I like how thin the steering wheel is actually compared to the. I thought I'd prefer the thicker, like on the M3, M4, but it kind of feels more like feels like a go-kart in a way. I think once an exhaust is added to this car, it's really going to make a big difference because it is pretty quiet, honestly. You do hear the engine more than the exhaust. I have the different modes we can shift the car into. So if I turn it to the right, it puts it into sport, and then one more flick to the right actually puts it in track. The car's still warming up, so I'm not gonna do anything too crazy. It's at 155 now, so I'll give it a little bit. I'm not gonna redline it or anything, but can I give it some gas? Yeah. Wow, once it hits like 3,000 RPMs or 4, it really wakes up. I was saying the exhaust is quiet, but this thing revs to 9,000, so driving at 2,000, it's not gonna really do much, but so I'll give it some gas here. There's no cars. So 4th gear, 3rd, 2nd, no, and damn. It's kilometers an hour, by the way, so we're not going that fast. We're not going 100 miles an hour. It's only like 60 or so. Let's see a little bit of the handling here. That acceleration clip you just saw was in track, but the owner's telling me if I put it in sport, it might actually be a little bit louder. I'm gonna drop it into sport. Now we're in 1st gear, and I'm gonna lay it down a little bit so you guys can hear. Wow. I'll go down one more time, we'll go back, okay? Sure. I don't want to put too many miles on it. So it's hard to tell the difference between the sport and the track in regards to the sound, but I thought they sounded pretty similar. You think that the sport sounds a little bit louder? those shifts at that like at that 5,000 RPMs. You get that pop, pop,
Yep.
and it just like goes to that next gear, man. All right, I'm gonna drop it back in the track again so I can compare. Look at these downshifts. Can you see the tachometer? How like quickly it jumps a second. We have a nice little roundabout here so we can kind of feel how planted this thing actually feels. It feels like it's on rails. Like I'm glued to the seat. Ready? Wow. Incredible. How do you feel sitting in the, it's unreal. And I'm not just saying that because it's a GT3 and like that's what you expect. Like I'm not on a track, just went around that roundabout, but zero body roll. It feels like it's like a roller coaster on rails. Like you're turning and the car is just not moving. Like your body's the only thing shifting in the car, and these carbon bucket seats like really hold you in tight. Like this is like the perfect seat for this car. You kind of do need it. If you live in a place where you can take advantage of the handling on this car, then I think these carbon bucket seats are a must. I'm sure the standard ones will suffice, but if you're getting a GT3, like why wouldn't you opt for the carbon buckets at that point? This car is spec'd with the front axle lift, so clearance isn't really an issue. We have a big speed bump coming up, and the owner told me that the GPS is programmed to lift up. So right now it says front raised automatically. So this is a huge speed bump, and the car knew that we're pulling up to this and raised the front end actually. So when I was pulling in my M3, I actually went on an angle because I would have scraped the front lip or at least the underbody of the car. What an experience. I don't think I can get back in, I don't think I can get back in my car and appreciate it anymore after driving this. Wow. I'm excited for the whatever exhaust you choose, for you to get that put on, because stock, this thing screams once it gets going. So I can't imagine it once you do the headers and all that. It's gonna sound incredible. And the front's still lifted, I'm assuming, so pulling into the driveway, if you're pulling into a driveway or anything that would possibly scrape the front lip or the underbody of the car, that front axle lift prevents that completely.
Yep.
So this button here is what controls the front axle lift, but like I said, pulling into the neighborhood, you could program the car to lift the front axle or lift the front end if you're getting close to something that you let the car know has to be lifted for. So to manually do it, you just push this back down if you want to lower it, and it says lowering vehicle, and the shifter here, the top button is pressed just like an automatic, regular automatic, and you put it in park. Is there a parking brake or anything? DCT, you can kind of feather the gas and slightly pull up. In the M3s, for some reason, the way the ZF automatic is set up, it's like you let off the brake and it kind of lurches you forward. So this kind of gives you more ability to play with how much the car creeps forward or back. So that was an awesome ride. I would thank my friend here on video, but he doesn't want to be identified. So I'm just going to say thank you to him after, but that was an amazing ride. And I noticed that the whole dash here, or where the glove compartment is, has full Alcantara. So there's no details missed on this thing. The headliner's Alcantara. You have carbon here. You have carbon on the doors. You have the yellow stitching. You have leather Alcantara. So there is not really any plastics on this car. It's pretty much all carbon fiber Alcantara, and some gloss black here, but not too much. And it is a little difficult getting out of the car, but not too bad. So that's all I have for you guys in this video. It wasn't too extensive. Just it's a little more difficult for me to go over a car and not kind of interview the owner, but hopefully you enjoyed, and I went over enough of the spec. If you have any questions about it, let me know in the comments, because I'm sure I missed some things about it in regards to the spec or just anything in general in the video. If you enjoyed this one, please like the video, and if you haven't already done so, please subscribe. I have a lot more coming. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next one.